I'm just reiterating the fact. I've said this before. I'm being repetitive now. With the freedom of speech, with my freedom to express myself, with my freedom to participate in the political process, comes tremendous responsibility. And far too many of us are either too lazy, or too overwhelmed, or too distracted to realize that with that freedom comes responsibility. You should not, we do this, unfortunately, and we have to tolerate this, just say whatever we think at the spur of the moment without considering, without researching, without learning. And for that reason, sometimes our freedom of speech we abuse it ourselves.
Well, to me, freedom of speech is me. I mean, without it, what am I? You know what I'm saying? I'm allowed to say whatever I say and be whoever I want to be. Watch the movies I want, like the things that I like. It's everything when you think about it in a broad context like that.
Where do we draw the line, you know? The person who's critical of his country, is he a patriot? You know, is he committing treason?
I always liked well, it wasn't really Voltaire that said it. It was someone that worked with Voltaire. I may not agree with what you say, but I'll fight till my death your right to say it. And if I could get that message across to kids, I think that sums it up.
I have a dream. One day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed.
People are quite unhappy with the state of the economy and what's happening.
If it is said television is more popular than Jesus.
President Obama just stated that he is going to maintain a policy that he can have any American citizen killed.
It's one thing to say, you know, I don't appreciate the way he's handled his business. It's another thing to say this man's a racist.
The crimes that were committed by Wall Street are just that, crime.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
In its simplest definition, freedom of speech is the right to say whatever you want. This is something often overlooked in our culture. Citizens in less fortunate countries of the world face prosecution for simply voicing their opinions. In America, we have the right to stick up for ourselves. However, there are limitations set by moral codes within our society. For example, it's quite alright to peacefully protest against crimes which are committed every day without punishment. On the flip side, calling out a president for being racist is clearly frowned upon. Does this give a different meaning to freedom, or do we ourselves set the standards for what is right and wrong? Without this right, our culture wouldn't be what it is today. Cinematic influence would be limited.
We guard you while you sleep.
Music would have to pass approvals.
We don't need no education.
Everyday speeches would cease to exist.
Gas goes up, milk goes up, trains go up. How am I supposed to live?
America was built on freedom, and we thrive on individuality. It's what sets us apart as one of the most diverse and influential societies in the world. To me, and many others like me, it's what makes me who I am.
I think that we can only appreciate on a very shallow level how bad off so many people around the world are. We lose sight of the fact of how lucky we are, how rich we are, how well off we are. And for that reason, we'll protest against closed lunch at school, while women in certain countries are being stoned to death for sexual indiscretions, while people are being pulled off the street and tortured for expressing political opinions. And we spend far too much time blogging about what Jessica Simpson had for lunch. But that's it's disturbing, but it's perfectly understandable and almost justified because we are so well off.
No, I don't think about it all the time. I kind of, you take it for granted. You take it for granted. I think everyone does in this country. They don't realize until they've been somewhere else in another country how important it is. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in another country and I'd go to say something about the government and end up in trouble. I'd be like, what happened? You know, the roof just caved in and I wouldn't even be aware that I'd done anything wrong.
I take it for granted, I will admit, but so does everybody else, so why should I feel bad about it, you know?
We're bound by social conventions, certain laws that restrict our freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech is set by the government to where we can pretty much say whatever we want, but society keeps that from us.
I think it's a rather disturbing trend with changes in communication, the internet, that people can say what they feel with impunity. They don't put their names to it. I imagine such has always been the case, but with changes in technology, the newspaper wasn't going to print everything that was submitted to it, whereas on the internet you can blog continually all day long, never put your name to it, and espouse the most inane, silly, and inflammatory statements.
But regardless, anytime you have a freedom that is limited by anything, it's not a freedom at all.
The U.S. has the biggest entertainment industry, like, in the world, obviously. And I think it's because the fact that we were big on freedom of speech early on, you know, so we became the poster child for, like, anybody who wanted to say anything, which is usually through entertainment, movies, music, and all that. Like, it just attracted here, so. I mean, I think freedom of speech definitely affected us. Entertainment. It's the reason why we have so much entertainment here.
A gifted speaker is the most powerful person in the world. If you look historically, there have been speakers who have moved entire generations, even defined entire generations, because of what they said, and not just what they said, but the way that they said it. And I think that it's really important that young people know that if there's something that is worth speaking up about, they need to do it. But don't just speak up about anything, you know, not dress codes and you know, trivial matters like that. Find a cause that's really worth standing up for and speak out. I think if you look throughout history, and if you look today at what's going on in our world, a movement, especially comprised of young people, and especially with a just cause, it's a scary thing to a lot of people.